started. Rodney, you want to start the video?
Okay, the YouTube link is connected and we are live.
Okay, welcome everybody to the June meeting of the CTC. Let's go ahead and we'll give Rodney a minute to do roll call.
Yes, I'm writing down everybody as they appear, marking
Perfect.
down names and then the time.
Perfect. Okay, so while he does that, only action item we have for housekeeping is to vote to approve the May minutes. So everybody in favor of approving the May minutes?
I did send in one correction.
Okay.
Thank you. And Edith set in a couple corrections as well, so thank you for those.
I guess we need to move them as corrected.
As corrected, yes.
Okay. Pam, anything interesting on the treasurer's report to make note of?
No, I sent it to you yesterday, so you should have had a chance to look at it. Very little action going on right now. Synovus did update their website, so Rodney and I are fixing up permissions and things like that yet, but that's a thing just between Rodney and me, so it shouldn't affect anybody else.
Okay. Yeah, I think most of our big expenditures happen in the springtime, so yeah, it's pretty par for the course, so that's fine. All right. Well, thank you, Pam, for that. Let's go ahead and get into the CTC business. So I would like to congratulate my colleague, Jesse McClellan. I'm just waiting for the reaction. Okay, perfect. Is she embarrassed? Okay, cool. Jesse has stepped in to be our president for 2022. We know Mary had talked about stepping down, so that is the official decision now. So everybody welcome Jessie. She'll be kind of learning how to take the reins for next year. So yeah, thank you, Jessie, for your continued service to the council.
Thanks, Joe.
Oh, of course. Only other big thing I had was so kind of immediate next steps moving forward. Just want to remind everybody, July we typically take off. So got a fly buzzing around here. July we typically take off. So we will not be meeting in July. In August, we will be going back to in-person meetings as an it'll be happening, but you'll have the option if you don't feel comfortable to still video in. We'll be meeting at the auditorium and we'll be able to have live stream services there as well. So just everybody be aware of that. We'll have reminders going out as well. I guess, is there any further discussion on that item? Anybody want to chime in on that?
Yeah, I'd like
Phil.
I'd like to say I never thought I'd be happy to be going to a meeting in person, but I am really looking forward to it. Look forward to seeing all of you in person.
Yeah, Phil, I agree, and look forward to seeing all you in person. It's been too long. So, yeah, thanks for that, Phil. Okay. So I do not have anything in terms of the CTC Executive Committee. I'll change that to read Jesse McClellan instead of Mary Attaway for president-elect. But other than that, I don't think anything's really changed in the past month. So, anybody else on the exec committee have any updates or anything?
I did talk with public information about meetings going back to in person. Public information is working on a document about expectations for meetings, and those will be available very soon. So we should have that document by the time we meet in person in August. And I did ask the question, are people able to have meetings at their homes? They are able to have meetings at their homes. There are some things to consider if that's what folks choose to do. And I'd be happy to answer questions about that. Or the document that gets published may answer those questions.
Thank you, Rodney, for sharing that. Yeah, that did they specify a timeline on when they think that might be available?
He said it was forthcoming. He didn't give it an exact time. So I'm guessing by the time we meet in August, it will be here. But I can distribute it to everybody as soon as I get it.
Okay. That sounds great. Yeah, and I think that stuff, like you said, will kind of reveal itself as moving forward, especially the document should help. But that will impact probably our, work group committee style meetings. So we can kind of, once that document's released, we can just move from there and see how we're affected. So yeah, thank you, Rodney, for looking into that for us. And we'll look forward to see what they say. Let's see, anybody else in the exec committee have anything else they want to share? Jesse, do you have a speech prepared?
Next time, I promise, Joe.
Okay. Well, Rodney, if you want to put that down on the minutes, that Jesse will have a speech prepared for next meeting in July in person. Okay. Well, in that case, let's go ahead and move into the steering committee. Pretty light meeting today, but kind of I'd say the star of the show today. Holly, we didn't get to hear your presentation. We had a pretty big meeting last month, but given that this is a lighter meeting and we've got it actually scheduled in with the correct time frame of 15 minutes. If you are ready and willing to share that presentation, we'd love to hear it.
Okay, great. Let's see, I'm gonna do the old share-roo here. My slides, can you guys see those?
Yep, we sure can.
On my laptop here, so. All right. You want me to start now?
Sure, floor is yours.
Okay. So just since I think we're recording this, so my name's Holly Campbell, and I am a public service assistant at the UGA Warnell School of Forestry and Natural Resources. And I do several things there, but one thing that I do is teach our spring tree ID or it's called dendrology labs. And I love that. It's been really exciting. I also do some of the lectures as well. And so today I want to take you through a little bit of a whirlwind tree ID tour. And there's only so much we can do in 15 minutes, so you'll have to bear with me on that, but maybe we'll have some future training on this and can go in a little bit more detail. So I often use this slide with my students in the beginning of the semester and really encourage them to think about tree ID as all about finding clues. It's about using your observation skills. It's about sort of paying attention to the world around you. So When you're thinking about tree or any kind of woody plant ID, vine or shrubs, even herbaceous plants, which aren't woody plants, but it's really about looking at all aspects of that plant. It's looking more closely than you may look in other ways. It's looking for a lot of different clues about shape, size, smell, sometimes taste. So you have to be careful in that regard. But it's not just looking at the actual plant, it's also looking at where the plant likes to live. And making observations about some of the particulars about its environment. So in getting started with any kind of tree ID, or even if you're seasoned, and this could just be a refresher for you, you want to think about having a few different items with you. And so this slide is going to detail some of those. So first of all, just having the right tools. I really like to have a good pair of pruning shears. These are some Fiskars, I believe they're called. And it's nice to not injure a plant if you're going to take a sample of buds, sample of leaves, flowers, fruits. And so having a clean cut, I think is really respectful to the plant, but preferable in not injuring the plant that you're trying to ID. But even better than taking some kind of cutting of that plant is taking a really good photo of the plant, either with a camera or a phone camera. Most of us have our phones and have great cameras on them, so that's a really great way to catalog images. And also, some things that you want to look for in a plant can't really be seen with the naked eye. And so you may want to use a magnifying glass or a hand lens to look at some aspects of plants. Alongside having some of these tools, it's great to have a good tree ID book, and everyone may have something that they prefer. One thing that we use in our class is Native Trees of the Southeast. It's right here. But there's a lot of other great tree ID books. I like this one because it provides a lot of ID details. It's not heavy on pictures, but it's heavy on details for really diving in deep once you have those images to trying to understand what that plant is. So some of the methods of collecting, being Sherlock Holmes, collecting this information is you want to take either samples, but I encourage images of leaves, bark, flowers, fruits, also thinking about buds, twigs, the tree form or the overall shape of the tree, fall color. There's a lot of different parts of the tree and different times of the year that you can take images of, and even of things like flowers, fruits, or leaves, especially fruits and leaves. You can take samples of these dried as well. They don't necessarily have to be fresh. And again, just repeating this, just make a note when you are trying to identify a plant of where this plant likes to live. Geographically, where is it? Slope-wise, where is it? Does it grow down by a river where it's moister, or does it grow up on the top of a slope or a mountainside where it might be more exposed and drier? And then once you have a great tree ID book, most tree ID books have these dichotomous keys or botanical keys in them. And they're a great way to sort of key out something that you're just not sure about. It does take a little degree of some botanical terminology. And so thinking about what these terms mean, this is not from a tree or woody ID book. It's probably from a herbaceous perennials book. But if, we mostly have our phones. So if you can Google a word, you can figure out what it is. And so basically these keys work by you start with number 1. It's kind of a yes or no. Is it this or is it that? If it's this, you go to number 2. If it's that, you go to number 25. And it just takes you through pages of these keys until you get to the plant that you're looking at. And oftentimes that ends in finding it within the book and looking at the image. So I thought about a few different ways to do this presentation. And I thought, okay, well, maybe we can dive into tree anatomy and we can look at different aspects of leaf arrangement, leaf shape. And I would like to do that at some point. I think that that's a really good starting point, but I think a lot of people actually just kind of want to dive into what some of these plants are, some of our common Athens trees. Several on this for this meeting may be very familiar with these plants, but if we have other people listening to this, they may not be as familiar. So I want to just kind of go through these. All right, so we're going to start with one of my all-time favorites. This is the tulip poplar. And for those who are interested in Latin names, it's Liriodendron tulipifera. It's in the Magnolia family. This is one of our older flowering plant families. It's kind of ancient. And some of the really, there are great winter ID features of this, but it's a great plant for IDing in the growing season. So when it has leaves on it, this is a deciduous plant. This is one of the tallest plants within our forest. If you're down, especially in the moist soils down by a creek, and you look up and you can't really see the top of the plant, it's very likely it's a tulip poplar. Very, very tall. They can get to be over 100 feet. So some distinguishing characteristics of this plant is that it has this cat face shaped leaf. It has multiple lobes. These are called lobes here, usually 4 to 6, and it's shaped like this cat face. Another distinguishing characteristic are its magnolia-like flowers that some people, this is how it got its name, say look like tulips. And so it has a sort of a yellow, a green, and an orange flower. These flowers are quite large, and pollinators love them, especially if you're a beekeeper. You like to know when the tulip poplar trees are flowering. The bark is sort of light gray. It's very smooth when the tree's young, and then it gets these sort of irregular ridges. I think of ridges as the mountaintops, furrows as the valleys of the bark. So it gets these kind of irregular, long, vertical ridges, and these little sort of narrow valleys on the bark. Now, one other thing that's distinguishing about this tree are these upside down U's that go over the branches. And you can see this multiple times a year. It's also on the young trees and the older trees. And so this is a fairly distinguishing characteristic. There's other parts of this tree that are also distinguishing, but I don't have images of them, so I'm going to confuse you. Okay, one of my favorite trees, white oak, Quercus alba. So Quercus alba, this is sort of the standard white oak, but it's also part of something called the white oak group. And the white oak group have leaves that on its lobes, here are lobes, they're rounded on the ends as opposed to pointed. So rounded edges. So this is our classic white oak, highly sought after tree, amazing lumber, amazing wildlife benefits. And it has a few distinguishing identification characteristics. So it has these rounded lobes, and the lobes point. So here's the base of our leaf, the tip or the apex of our leaf, and the lobes point up towards the tip of the leaf. And they're sort of evenly shaped. There's some other white oaks that look kind of similar to this, but this is a very distinguishing leaf. And that you have these evenly shaped lobes that are pointing up to the tip. It also has sort of a whitish underside, which is partly how it gets its name, white oak. So whitish underside of the leaf. The bark is a pale gray. And as it gets older, it starts to come off in these, not really come off, but it pulls away from the tree in these long strips. And it almost seems like they're about to slough off, like you have like a shagbark hickory, but they sort of retained on the tree, and they go all the way up into the tall branches of the tree and on the main stem of the tree. Very distinguishing characteristic. The acorns are about an inch to an inch and a half long, and they have this very warty, W-A-R-T-Y cap on them with a nice stalk. So it's a very distinguishing of the white oak is the warty cap. Another tree that some people may or may not know, and Joe, you can let me know when I'm getting close to the end of my 15 minutes. I'm happy to move faster. But this is a very common tree, but a lot of times people get this confused with some of our other pines. So loblolly pine is usually what we're going to see in the Athens area. The needles are anywhere from 5 to 8 inches long, and pine trees have bundles of leaves. They're called fascicles. They're in these bundles, and loblolly, though it can have 2 in its bundle, it almost always has 3. So 3 about 5 to 8 inch long needles. And these needles are sort of a yellowish gray color. The trees are extremely tall, especially if they're on a good site. They can be 100 feet tall, very straight trunk. That's why they have really, really wonderful wood quality, especially some of the genetically not modified, but genetically enhanced trees. So the bark of the loblolly is sort of a grayish color, and it has these big flat-topped sort of plates on it, and they're broken up with these deep ridges that especially increase as the tree gets older, but think gray. So gray, sort of rough bark with flat plates. Now the pine cones, you can see my hand here, Pine cones 3 to 5 inches long, and this is a cone scale, and it has this really sharp prickle where I'm putting my cursor on. And we like to say that loblolly pine cones are not squeezable. You don't want to hug them, you don't want to squeeze them because they hurt when you squeeze them. So some of our other pines are squeezable, but loblolly is not. All right, I love this tree. This is a very common tree in Athens. This is the southern red oak, Quercus falcata. In the beech family, like what did I just do? Our white oak. So they're both in the beech family. And our southern red oak is a very stately tree. It likes very dry sites, unlike our white oak, which can take dry sites, but it likes more moist sites. So this is a very drought tolerant tree. So you'll definitely see it on those ridge tops and drier slopes. So this leaf, this falcata means curved. So it's like a sickle shape. So this is the falcate part of the curved leaf. But there's a few distinguishing characteristics of this leaf. We like to say this looks like a turkey foot. So a turkey foot is a good comparison of this leaf shape, but also it has this bell shape on the bottom of the leaf that we think maybe can help people learn southern red oak, southern bell. So it's another little easy way to remember the leaf. So the leaves are lighter on the underside and sometimes have a little bit of pubescence on them. But these leaves in the tree, and you can see it on this picture here, the tree almost looks like it's wilting. The leaves kind of hang down like this in the summertime. And that's also a distinguishing characteristic. The bark is extremely dark, almost black, sort of a blackish gray. And it's a good red oak bark. It does not have any kind of white strips down the side like some of our other red oaks, but mostly a black bark. The acorn is quite small, as you see with this ruler here, about a ½ inch long, and it has this scaly cap on it. Sometimes it's warty, but it's usually scaly, and the acorn is quite small. I don't always see it fruiting as heavily as some of our other oak trees. So I next want to move on to, all of these are my favorites, by the way, but another of my favorites, the American beech, Ficus grandifolia. It's in with all the oak trees in the beech family. Chestnuts are also in this family. And this is just an amazing tree. Loves moist soils. It's extremely shade tolerant. And it's kind of one of our climax species, one of our mature forest species. And it's going to grow super tall and it's going to tolerate that shade all the way, until it's getting up and pushing into the canopy. Some great distinguishing characteristics about this tree. It has these lovely sort of elliptical or sort of egg-shaped leaves. Sometimes they're a little more elongated, and they have what we call the serrated edge on them. And beautiful medium green. They have some what we call pubescence or hairiness on the underside of the leaf. They have a zigzag twig on them. And at the end of that twig, there is a really long pointy bud that we say is shaped like a cigar buds. And it's about 1 inch long, as you can tell, just comparing it to my hand there. The bark we like to compare to elephant skin. It's very smooth, it's gray, and it remains this way all the way until it's getting older unless someone carves their initials in it. So super smooth, gray bark. And I don't recommend you carving your initials in it, FYI, but beautiful, beautiful bark. They're very distinguishing. These leaves turn coppery in the wintertime, and they are retained on the tree all the way through winter until the new leaves push out in the spring. And that's a great ID feature in the winter. It's really that one tree that you're going to see in the forest that's retaining its leaves. So it does have a fruit, which is this little burr-shaped, shoot, I can't remember the exact name of this botanically, but this is what contains the nuts. And usually there'll be 2 little nuts in here, and they are edible and they're delicious. They're small, so you're going to do a little bit of work getting them, but they tend to come out in the summer and sort of early fall. So look out for those. All right, going to move on to this other species, another of my favorite, of course, American sycamore, Platanus occidentalis. This is in the sycamore family. This tree loves water. Now, a lot of times it's moved around in urban areas, but this is definitely a water-loving tree. You're going to see it down by rivers, down by creeks, streams, and there are some wonderful characteristics of this tree. Now, this leaf is huge. It's quite large. It is lobed. Here are the lobes. It has this serration in between the lobes, and it has, if you were to break off this leaf, this is called the petiole, the stem of the leaf, or the stalk of the leaf, and the leaf covers a bud down here over this twig. So there is a little bud that becomes a new leaf eventually, and this stalk completely encases that bud. And that's sort of a distinguishing feature. And I'm sorry I don't have a picture of that. So these leaves, quite large, beautiful, and lobed and serrated. Now, one of the most distinguishing characteristics, you can see this tree driving down the road from afar, is what we call camouflage bark. Sort of peely, schluffy at the bottom, all different colors, as we see that it could be considered camouflage. And then as you get to the top, it's almost white, or it is white in some cases, and it looks smooth as you're moving up into the tree. So great camo bark, really great ID feature. And then it has these, it's a cluster of achenes, which is its type of dry fruit. And these hang down in singles. So there's another tree, our London plane tree, which hangs down in two. So this is just single, a cluster of achenes, so single fruits. And they're, as you see from my hand, they can be quite large. And that's all I had. I wanted to move through this kind of quickly, but I wanted to recommend a few trees because I know we're doing a short here, so I'm trying not to go too long. But I love this Native Trees of the Southeast. You can get it on Amazon or get it at a bookstore. It's by Kirkman et al., 2007. I know that there are other sources out there, but this is a great book to consider. I also love the site by Will Cook. That he put together this great image site. It's called Caroline in Nature. Got the link there. And if anyone wants to reach out to me or you get stumped on a tree ID question, would love to take your images, as many as you can. I'm really good at it, even by looking at pictures, or I could come out to anyone's property and look at them as well. But that's all I have. How would you like me to proceed, y'all?
That was great, Holly. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing.
That was
Holly.
Wish we had more time and you could go over more trees.
Yeah, I didn't want it to end.
Well, hey, we're gonna do this great tree tour.
That's right.
Yeah.
October.
Okay. That was awesome.
Thank you, Holly. That was terrific.
So yeah.
You're welcome. My pleasure. I love doing it.
Yeah, that was a real treat.
Will that be archived on this meeting? Like, so, or do you have a way to archive that little presentation? So, because it was really great, Holly, especially like if you are new to IDing and looking, it'd be great to have it as a resource on the webpage.
Yeah, it really would.
It would be great to have Holly do like 3 or 4 trees every meeting.
Good.
Yeah, if you want to do a series of these, that would be awesome. You know, this time spot is really just kind of reserved for anybody that's got you know, professional experience, you know, in a certain field that would, you know, be interesting to the group. So, but yeah, we, you know, don't always have a whole lot of volunteers jumping for this spot. So Holly, if you got like part 2 and 3 that you want to do in the next couple of meetings, that would be great. I guess I can
go
open
until y'all
this
get
up.
sick of it.
Yeah. And I ask this every meeting, and you know, I think Holly's the only one that's volunteered recently. But yeah, is there anybody else that, you know, feels inspired following that presentation that would like to take a 10 or 15-minute spot and do a little educational short?
I was just going to say that this is actually volunteering Holly more, not me, but it's with that skill set on board, it seems like a really cool, potentially a cool series of tree identification, you know, for the website, a series for consumers, you know, for visitors to the website. So I think a lot of people don't know anything that was just covered, you know, maybe some people here do, but Seems like a really nice way to build some, readership and loyalty to the website or Facebook page or whatever. Just a thought. We don't have to, I don't mean to
Yeah.
find Holly.
I know there's a way on a YouTube video to highlight a section of it, you know. I don't know if you can actually cut it and use it, especially since it belongs to the county, but I think there is a way, I've certainly seen it online. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Where you can just, if you Google how to do something, it'll just highlight that particular section of that video. So maybe we could at least do that.
Definitely. I think,
Well,
if this
I
is,
could also edit the video to just that section and then put a link to that on the website. That's also possible.
Maybe just a series. So, every week or 10 days, it changes up to a different tree or two,
Mm-hmm.
It'd be
from
good if you were searching and like, I'm looking like trees in Athens with, pointy leaves or whatever, and that starts to come up. It'd be awesome.
So tagging them. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know
Yeah.
how you do that, Jesse.
Cool.
Yeah, I can
Thank
do that.
You know,
Yeah.
Do you have to
Some-
have permission from like the county or since it'll be on their YouTube channel?
Well, what I was saying was what I could do is just take a clip of the video. If I had the whole video, I can take a clip of it and then post just that clip
Okay.
and then link to it so that it shows on the Tree Council's website.
yeah, I
Um,
think that'd be fine.
my
Holly's
favorite
intellectual
part of
property.
my favorite part of Holly's presentation was that she points out, looking beyond just seeing, oh, there's a tree, it's got green leaves, that sort of thing, that she began introducing the tools of looking at leaf shape and leaf size and when it's got leaves on it and when it doesn't, and bud shapes and where they're located. That to me that's one of those teach a person to fish and feed them for their life. And then introducing some resources of ID books or that sort of thing. Something that I would be interested in, and I certainly haven't delved into it on my own, but there are some, I don't know how to describe it, but there are some keys now where apparently you can take a picture of a plant or a portion of a plant and get some feedback from the website or the service as to what that plant might be. And there's a lot of danger in using something like that, I know, because a leaf shape can be the same for a number of different species and so forth. But a few introductory classes in how to use those or what some of the better ones are that are out there now would be very useful to me, but I think it would be also useful to the lay people in the county who are trying to identify trees on their sites and so forth.
I agree. And it might be naming it.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you first.
It might be worth naming it a little series on, tree identification or Athens-Clarke County tree, popular trees or something. And those resources would be cool. And maybe it's even like a family, things to do with your kids or whatever, some other like little marketing idea goes with it to build some stickiness, but just.
That's what, Ernie, I'm thinking along the same lines, like the ACC just rolled out the Water Smart, or they've been rolling it out actually for the last year, so that you can track your water to see if you have a leak or whatever. So if we have like a Tree Smart, for like what trees in your neighborhood or, you're planting. So we could probably tie it in. The schools may want that resource, or, master gardeners might be able to promote it. So I think there's all kinds of options.
Right.
And I mean, Holly, it's your profession, so I don't know if you want to just be giving it away for free, but it's fantastic.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. Thanks.
Well, it's yeah, I mean, I work for the state, so it's not free per se. We're all paying for it, but yeah, I don't usually get paid for that, so.
All right.
Well, let's
Sounds
say
like there's a
if-
lot of good ideas floating around. I guess, promotions committee. And Holly, if y'all want to maybe chat a little bit and see what we could do with the website. It sounds like there's some different ways we could publish some clips. And it sounds like there's no, there shouldn't be any issue with county or anything. It's, you know, Holly's intellectual property, so that should be fine. But yeah, that was awesome, Holly. I guess we can continue to chat if you want to do part 2 of a series next time, or if anybody else feels inspired from that presentation and they want to elaborate a little bit about what they do, feel free to email me, Rodney, or Jesse, and we can get you all lined up and do a little 10 or 15 minute spot. So yeah, Holly, we appreciate it. That was really cool.
Rodney and Sean did really excellent presentations too. I was wondering if there was a way to use all of those as a link from our website. Jesse, do we have limited storage on that, or?
So if it's a video, it would not be stored on the website. It would have to be stored on like a Vimeo or a YouTube account.
Okay.
Which I can create one for specifically for the Tree Council. You know, depending on how many videos we did, we would have to pay for an account. You know, the basic account, the free account would have a limited amount of capability. So if we were going to do a series, we'd have to pay for an account, but it's not unreasonable to pay for it.
The only thing I might add to the discussion on a series of these videos would be, I guess I'd want to pause maybe, and I don't know who to talk to about this, maybe offline. What problem, I'd want to make sure that this series would solve a problem that we have, so that at the end of 6 months or a year, we're not, you know, we don't have a few episodes out there and we're holding this bag of one-offs versus like, oh, this solves a problem we have, like, you know, attendance at events, or, you know, what enrollment in some program or some educational series. I wouldn't want it to just be a one-off where, you know, it doesn't really fit into any of our overarching strategies or objectives for the year or for the 3-year period. So maybe, I don't know who that would be. Maybe I'd be happy to meet with somebody on that. I don't know if we can solve it all together in one, you know, somebody who knows like the overall strategy or something for the group might be able to shape how we name it or what it becomes.
I don't know. I just think a
Definitely.
nice series of tree identification for Athens would be fine. I don't think that would be educational. I don't know that it needs to be.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, that falls under the education committee.
It might even be when it's released that it would be around an event or something. You're right, Pam. It doesn't have to necessarily be named for an event, you know, an event generator or something, but just it might affect the release of it. But yeah, I just know
Make it more meaningful. Yeah.
Yeah, it might just be when you drop it. It may not be the actual name of it. Yeah, thanks.
At the next Green Life Expo, we could definitely have it. Like if we get to table, we can have a laptop set up with it at the table to show resources. So it would be good instead of a brochure, or along with a brochure.
Definitely. Yeah, great points, guys. Great points. I'm gonna go ahead, and it's about time for new member interview work group. So Sean, you there, Sean? I'm on my iPad. I have limited view of who's here. There he is. Hey, Sean.
Hi guys. So just looking at my notes here, all expiring members as of the last agenda setting meeting are coming back, and we need to fill 2 seats. That public service announcement needs to happen pretty quick in order for those seats to be filled in September, October. Does that sound right to you, Rodney?
Yes, the sooner the better. I mean, we really should be trying to wrap up interviews by the end of August, early September.
Okay, do we need to do a voting item in order to promote the position, or is that just something that we can say needs to happen?
What do you think, Ron? Do we need to vote to appoint 2 new members?
If we vote for anything, it would be to go ahead and start advertising for the positions.
I'll make a motion for the Athens-Clarke County Tree Council to begin advertising for the 2 open positions that will need to be filled by late August, early September, so that we can get our interviews started as soon as possible.
Second that.
Okay.
Do we
All in
have
favor?
2 open positions or 1?
From my understanding, 2. Joseph dropped out, and who else? Someone's expiring, if I'm not mistaken.
We had a second person drop out. I don't even remember his name. He was not around for long.
Oh, was it Jim Weeks?
Yeah.
Come back.
According to the records I'm looking at, there are 4 people with expiring terms, 4 of who are returning. One of them was Joseph Bates. So if I'm looking at the records correctly, we have 1 position that needs to be filled.
Oh, okay. My bad.
So I'll just reread the motion with the change. Motion to begin advertising for 1 open CTC member position.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor? Okay. So as of now, I'm showing the interview work group as Sean, Pam, and Edith. Sean, is that right? Okay. Do we need to talk about the interview process at all? We don't need to cover that here, do we? Pretty much got it. Okay. Well, great. Sean, is that everything you got for new member?
That's correct. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Sean. Let's go ahead and move into the Trees for Tomorrow work group. Phil, you got any updates on that?
I do not. We
That's
didn't
fine.
meet as a committee this past time.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and that's perfectly fine. There's no need to meet just to meet. So yeah, no worries there. The same goes for next week. If you guys have stuff you need to get covered and meet and use that time, please do. But if you don't have anything coming up on the horizon, there's no obligation that you have to use that time. So yeah, just we can talk about this more, but just let us know if you plan to meet, in the next couple of business days, just so we can have an agenda set that we know which groups are meeting and which groups are not. So, but yeah, thank you, Phil. We will go ahead down to the grants and fundraising work group, which is Mary Attaway, Edith, and Stacy. So I'll let y'all take it away.
Well, Pam had volunteered to create a spreadsheet for us on the information we'd collected already. And I'm going to start populating it. When we have it more fully populated, I was hoping folks that are interested, and they don't necessarily need to be on the grants work group, if someone's interested in GDOT or say Georgia Power, if they'd like to work on those particular grants. I did hear back from Charles Smith with Habitat. Phil had suggested contacting them about planting trees at their construction sites, and they have a few going, ongoing. We just need to talk more about that. But that would be a good overlap for the Synovus grant, which whose focus was in disadvantaged neighborhoods. Also UPS too. And then I did hear back from Todd Stevenson with the Stormwater Department, since Coca-Cola and Georgia Power had a focus on water quality. And he just wanted to know, well, what do we have in mind? I was wondering, are there any areas along the Firefly Trail that need trees where there's a lot of runoff, or I'm out of my area, you can tell.
Potentially, yes. I know the Firefly Trail, a lot of that. So the areas directly adjacent to either side of that Firefly Trail are considered county right-of-way, and a lot of that is spoken for. So in order to get ahead of that, a lot of it is on the adjacent developer to replant those. So a lot of it's going to be, Rodney, using kind of your connections and some of the leisure services folks, really connecting with those guys and determining where we can get ahead of where that right of way is not already spoken for, where there's not already a builder with approved plans, areas that are kind of up and coming. And so I would reach out to leisure services and see. I think that's probably the best place to start, and just see where.
Joe, can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
We do also have a potential opportunity to plant around 6 or so trees in the West Broad neighborhood, where we've done several removals through a grant with the Athens Land Trust. Mm-hmm. That I would love to be able to replace those trees. And I think as long as we presented it with like an educational component, and planted the right trees in the right place, I think the homeowners would be on board with it. But it's certainly something that we could work with the land trust to kind of coordinate with them and figure out the best places for those. But that is a potential opportunity of places to plant.
That's great. That's perfect.
As far as the Greenway, there are some opportunities along the Greenway. They are leisure services owned, so to speak, but sustainability does not have some habitat restoration projects. Mike with sustainability has been extraordinarily busy picking up his new position this year, but they are hiring another person, and there may be opportunities moving into the future.
Okay. Rodney, would you mind forwarding that contact info to Edith?
Sure.
And Edith,
so
I don't know. Okay.
Go ahead, Mary.
I don't know if it's related, but there's several groups that do water quality for the tributary streams around the small streams, not necessarily like the North Oconee, like Brooklyn Creek and other little creek tributaries, and monitor the health of them. And they may have some areas in there to have plantings. They're funky kind of areas going between urban corridors. Mm-hmm. And so it's like the Rivers Alive, and I think it was Lori Fowler at UGA that was heading up some water stream quality. But I'll try to look into that and see if I can find who is working on the water quality. And because I know in my neighborhood, there's signs up every once in a while that there's a E. coli warning, or don't let your dog get in the creek and stuff like that. So somebody checks it.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, Mary, if you can dig those up and forward those to Edith, I think the spreadsheet's a great idea. That's a lot of how we do kind of our commercial prospecting as well. It's similar work where you've got the group that you're aiming for and kind of the amount of the grant, and which contacts need to go where. So I
Yeah.
think the spreadsheet's going to be awesome. That way you can kind of just plug those in where you need to. And I would say, again, if anybody else is interested in this grants and fundraising, I don't want Edith doing all of it on her own. So if anybody wants to step in and help out, please feel free.
I'm planning to
The
up my
more the
game.
merrier.
I'm planning to up my game, Edith. I have been let off a very big hook by my friend Jesse, so.
All right. Well, that's great. Edith, you have anything else?
That was it for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I would love to share actually disappointing news. We did hear back from the Keep America Beautiful grant, and we did not get funded this year. I don't think it has anything to do with the grant application. I just think it has to do with the fact that we have been funded several years for that, and they just want to share the wealth. So we'll just keep trying. So sorry to disappoint.
Thank you for sharing, Stacy. And I think you're exactly right. We kind of knew this day was coming. We kind of been stacked with that award for a long time, and so yeah, it's too bad, but it'll go somewhere else where it's needed. So
It'll come back around. I think they just would like to fund some other affiliates around the country. And sometimes what happens is, in the past, actually, there have been a couple times where they've come to me and said they really didn't have great applicants. So we have something waiting in the gate. And so they know we're kind of here and that we do good work and we have good projects. So, but I think they're really just trying to share the wealth. So sorry, guys.
Thank you for your hard work, Stacy.
Yes.
Perennially.
yes, definitely what Phil said. That is, yeah. Thank you, Stacy. Yeah,
It's really thanks to everybody who looks at those grants and edits and kind of go back and forth. So it's everyone.
Right. Well, thank you, grants and fundraising work group. That's great. It's really exciting, and it sounds like starting to connect the dots. So that's great. I'm going to go ahead and give the floor to the Landmark and Champion Trees work group. So, Sean, got anything for us on that one?
I actually don't. I don't have any updates, unfortunately. I still need to connect with the. There's a person who heads up this program within Georgia Forestry Commission, and they're very familiar with the rules and has expressed interest in meeting with us on some level, but probably not in person. So honestly, I haven't made that connection yet. So, how about any of you guys? Have you guys been out planting trees?
No,
I've
I
done a
think
couple.
you all
Great.
have done some.
Yeah, just hitting up some more for private property. The state plane numbers really hem me up as far as on the public lands. But I actually hit up a geologist friend of mine, and he gave me an incredibly wonky way to translate that. So I'm still deciphering his email, but I'm starting, and I'm sure this happened last time, Rodney, they did them, but I'm starting to find, I found an incredibly large box elder. And so since I have the list, I happen to know that it's probably a little larger than the one we have on the list, but I can't frickin' find the one on the list. So once I do that, I'll turn in the new one.
It is not uncommon that those very large trees end up disappearing. They just get removed from time to time for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Nice find on the big box elder. That'll be a nice addition.
I look forward to hearing that.
That is awesome.
But yeah, the tentative plan is to I don't know, meet somehow And maybe we can get this guy on a Zoom call. And I don't know, informally, I think we talked about going over to Matt Duncan's, who has the, is it the Georgia Oak? Can't remember, Oglethorpe, or I think it's the Georgia Oak, the national champ. So he's super accessible and gracious and will allow us to come over.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I vow to get back on that program. Sorry, guys.
No, it's fine. It's everything's wide open right now, so don't feel bad. Yeah, we can only do so much, but yeah, you're doing a great job, Sean. I know there were some questions about technical specifics on certain types of trees, codominant trees, different other kind of things like that. Did we ever get the official measuring standards out to everyone on that work group?
Rodney sent that, and I'm pretty sure I distributed that to everybody.
Okay. All right. So did that help clarify some of the questions for some of y'all that were out in the field?
Yes, but it was harder to digest than Holly's presentation. But yes, it was helpful.
Okay. Good deal. Well, yeah. Sounds like there's some cool stuff with the national champion, and so yeah. Just let us know if anything comes up, and we can continue tracking these things down. So, if that's all you got, then you're also the chair of the next one. I think we had two things to talk about for the Larry Morris Memorial Planting Work Group. All right.
Well, I know we have an action item if you want to start out on that, and it's we need to make a motion to vote to apply for the Adopt Athens designation for the planting location for the Larry Morris Memorial tree planting. And Stacy, I don't know if she's still here with us or not, but
I'm still here.
okay. Can you refresh everybody on what exactly that is? The Adopt Athens designation.
Okay, so the Adopt Athens program, you can kind of think of it as like an umbrella. And what it does is it gives a formal protocol for folks that want to adopt something in our community. For instance, adopt a bus stop, adopt a stream, adopt a highway. And so we have a protocol that folks have to follow and some paperwork that they go through so that the mayor and commission formally recognize that they've adopted that area. And that it's kind of a quote unquote contract, but it just states what the volunteers will do and won't do throughout the period of their adoption, which is usually a 2-year period. And so folks, depending on what type of adoption it is, they can choose to have a sign if they want. Some folks decide not to have a sign. But it's just recognition that someone is taking care of that space. And so, like I said, mayor and commission have to approve that, and the adoptee will receive an official certificate from the mayor. So, and then we keep it all on record on file. Like, for instance, we have over 75 adopted highway groups in this community. We have, over 30 adopted bus stop groups. And so the Adopt Athens, Adopt a Spot kind of falls under that umbrella of adopt whatever.
Sounds pretty straightforward. Yeah, kind of just in thinking about our stewardship of this site, I think the discussion at the last executive committee meeting last month was that just kind of in summary that this is probably our most organized option that's going to allow us kind of the protections and stewardship that we're seeking. So I think it's a great idea. You know, it'll kind of give us some official, unofficial sort of stewardship, ownership of the idea and the space, and allow us to maintain it the way that we think is appropriate. Sean, do you have anything you want to add about the designation?
I don't actually. You're about to say something, Rodney?
Yes, thank you, Sean. I was just trying to draft some verbiage for that motion. So if you want to hear what I wrote and then give me whatever suggestions of changes for it. A motion to complete the paperwork for the Adopt Athens program for the Larry Morris planting area, which will establish the CTC as the entity who cares for the site.
I'll second the motion.
Okay.
So when we make language like this and setting this up, which I do think is a good structure to begin for the long-term preservation of the site, it's something that if it's desired by the neighborhood could take over the stewardship. Like if we start it, we don't have to finish it, right? We could do it as long as necessary, and unless if there's another interested party, they're allowed to steward it as well.
I believe that sounds right. The period of 2 years would, you know, at that point we could pass it to another group. Is that right, Stacy?
Yeah, so, and I sent the application to Sean already, right, Sean? I feel like I did, okay. And so we kind of, we can go through that and see. It may just be that the folks in the neighborhood want to just keep the upkeep mowing or whatever, you know, whatever they're going to do. They can renew it after 2 years, and if somebody else is interested, they can adopt it. So, yeah.
Would you like me to
Robert.
attach for a period of 2 years at the end of that motion? Should I read it again, or what do you think?
I think that would be, yeah, that's a good designator. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Hey, y'all, I have to hop off the call, but Sean, you know, any questions you have about that adoption process, I'm here to help, and we'll make that happen. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Stacy. Appreciate
Bye,
it.
Stacy.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on the motion?
I don't.
Okay. Well, if there's no more discussion, Rodney, would you like to read the motion that's on the table?
Yes, motion to complete the paperwork for the Adopt Athens program for the Larry Morris planting area, which will establish the CTC as the entity who cares for the site for a period of 2 years.
Okay. The motion's been made. Is there a second?
I second it, Sally.
Okay.
Should we say one point of order? Should we say at least 2 years in case we carry it further? And we don't know how long we'll carry it further, but we're going to at least 2 years to give us the option.
Excellent suggestion. Thank you.
Okay. The motion's been modified to say at least 2 years. Does anybody second this motion?
I'll second it a third time.
All right. All in favor? Great. Thanks, everybody. So with that, we will complete the paperwork. It sounds like, Sean, you have everything you need from Stacy for that.
Correct.
Okay. And I guess maybe would this be a good, Sue had sent something out. Did you want to share that, or Is the date kind of in fluctuation right now?
That's actually, I think, a separate. That's going to be in Winterville. That event that Sue was speaking of.
Okay.
Mhm. I think
Okay.
originally there was a thought of doing the same, doing a planting at the time of the memorial event that she's having, but I think, yeah, that's in Winterville, right, Holly? That's right. Yeah.
Which part is in Winterville?
Yeah,
Um,
there's a commemorative tree that is being planted and that is in Winterville.
Right, and
We're doing one on campus too for him. I never mentioned that before, but there's a few going on.
but yeah, so and I should extend an invitation to all of you guys, of course. But Sue Lawrence, Larry's wife, she's invited, sent out an invitation to a celebration of Larry's life on November 13th in Winterville, right, Holly and Lee? Yeah. So I'll forward that email. You guys mark your calendars. But just a quick.
The celebration of life, you said?
That's correct.
Yeah, the November one. You
It's
forwarded the email to me.
It's November 12th. Sorry, not the 12th. It's
13th.
the 13th, and it's at Flinchum's Phoenix.
That's it. Sorry.
Yeah, and I haven't gotten a time yet. I'm not sure what time it is, but yeah, forwarding that email would be great because she's trying to collect stories about Larry, like written stories by a certain time in the fall, and then she's going to collect them all and share them. And I think maybe even some pictures if anyone had some of him. You probably know that better than me though, Sean.
I'll send that out at the end of the meeting for sure.
Okay, that
Thanks.
sounds good. Okay. Is that all the items we had for the Larry Memorial Planting Work Group? Fantastic. Okay. So I think committee reports were pretty light, but we can go through those. Start with the promotions committee. Let's see, Mary, I think you just kind of had a little something you wanted to, just a quick summary, I guess.
Yeah, we are looking forward to catching up on a bunch of things over the next couple of months. I know we don't have a meeting next week, but my hope is that Dusty and I can get what we've talked about done on the website and start doing find some time to get together. One thing I do have to report that I forgot when I sent y'all that email was about the t-shirts. Those were quite expensive. So we were allocated $200 to spend on some promotional materials. Again, this is kind of a second round boost, but $200 gets us about 10 t-shirts or less. So they're quite expensive now, and I don't know if this is related to supply issues and COVID and everything, or if this is just how it is now. I haven't ordered t-shirts in a while, but I just did for my kids' swim team too, and they're just expensive. So I was going to look at like some other types or brands of the t-shirts that they can put the logos on. But if everybody wanted a t-shirt, one thing we could think about is to ask everyone to commit to making a separate donation in that amount. And then I could go ahead and order everybody on the council t-shirts if they wanted them, sort of prepay for your t-shirt. And then we could have some extra t-shirts that we could work on selling to kind of boost that. So that's something for us to be thinking about. Another option that was floated in the last meeting when I wasn't there was to get everybody name tags instead. And Tori did some research on that, and she found out that we could get them for about $10 a piece. So we could start, you know, and go ahead and do that for our current members, and put the t-shirt thing on hold for a little while. I don't know. How does everybody feel about all that?
I think the badges is definitely a good one. We've had them in the past, and it's been a while. I think it's probably been 6 years since we had badges made. So those name tags would be, especially for Green Life Expo, whatever events we're doing. It's a good alternative, low cost option that kind of is a good identifier. And
Mm-hmm.
I
I
would
have so
support
many
that.
t-shirts now that
Yeah.
I just don't know how often I'd wear it.
Right.
Mhm.
That's kind of the thing I wanted to gauge too, is like, you know, do you all really want t-shirts? I do think they're a good fundraising thing to do. But right now we're not having a lot of traffic, you know, on the website, and we're not really doing many public events right now since we're coming out of COVID. So I don't know that we'd have many opportunities to sell them other than just blasting it on social media. But until we really, you know, kind of come out of this and make more of a presence, maybe we put that off. I was excited about them, but yeah. So if we did a simple vote, if we were to spend that money now, would you all be more interested in getting badges? I'll raise your hand for badges. Okay. Okay. Good. That's what I was thinking. Well, we can start and go ahead and move forward with that over the summer.
Just
Okay.
a further indication about why I think that's a good idea. If we have folks out measuring trees and looking for champion trees and that sort of thing, once again, it's a really good way to introduce yourself in an official capacity, sort of, to the public.
I
And we
think
can
that's
use
great.
our
And
new
even
and we can use our new logo on that
right.
badge
Yeah.
somehow, hopefully.
Yeah. And I think that when we got together, like on the Firefly Trail with other members of like the people involved in the planning and all that, and it was hard to remember who everybody was. And so it really kind of lets you off the hook to have a name tag on, doesn't it? Okay. That's about all I got.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. Let us know what you come up with on the name tags, and I think that sounds like a pretty quick, easy voting item once we kind of get something mocked up.
I think it was Athens Trophy that that Tori had researched. And so Joe, I don't know who else was around when you got yours. If anybody remembers where those came from, I'm happy to probably, you know, get more than one quote. But $10 a pop doesn't sound bad to me. Do we need to? I think we made a motion to allocate those funds for the promotions committee to use on t-shirts. Do we need to change that in any way, or do I just have the green light to go ahead and buy these? I'll be reaching out to you to make sure I get your names right, and I'll send that out. But
I think we probably just make a new motion when you have it ready to go.
okay.
I don't know, Rodney. Do you think we need to make a motion today? Or?
We don't have to make a motion today. You could even just make a motion to amend the motion for name tags instead of t-shirts.
Yeah. Since we don't meet, I mean, I was thinking it'd be nice for me to go ahead and get some ordered over the next 2 months since we don't meet next month. So I would hate to put it off if I needed your permission to spend that money before then.
That's a good point. Okay. Well, yeah, I guess I can do
Why
it.
don't we work
Go
our
ahead.
way through an amendment to the motion right now and just turn you loose on it then?
Yeah. Phil, you want to
We
make
won't
a
have an
motion?
exact number for what it would cost, but how many members do we have total? I mean, and do we do name tags for all of our ex officios and all like that too, or, those are some of the questions I had.
So I think giving you permission to use the money that way or pursue it wouldn't preclude you figuring that out after we vote yes on that. I mean, I
Yeah,
think we
just
can
whatever.
vote yes, that you can use the money this way, and then you can figure all that out.
Yeah. Because $200 would be, probably 18 or 19 tags,
That
including
would
like
probably cover
tax.
voting members and ex officio, but
Yeah.
and then,
So
yeah.
that's the same. I think that would be enough to get me where I need to be.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mary, I
well,
don't know
I'll
if
get
it's more-
started.
Oh, I don't know
What?
if it'd be more competitive, but almost any print shop can also, those kind of items like patches and stickers and buttons, like Belgian and all the print places can probably quote you on that too. But at some point you'll have the price, that's.
Mm-hmm. So you think they would do a plastic name tag with a pin on the back? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would guess, but what if the trophy shop has something that's wooden or something different, like that has a value
Yeah.
to it, of course.
Yeah.
$10,
Can we
that'd
do
be
magnets
awesome.
instead of pins?
I'm
I'd
sorry,
be
what?
very
Magnets,
much in,
Can we do
I'd be in
magnets instead of
favor
pins?
the magnetic ones like we had last
Yeah.
time, because they're transportable
They're better.
from
Yeah.
one item to another very easily, and they seem to
Yeah.
be durable.
Yeah, I have one of those for something and they are great. Yeah, I'll inquire about wood. Hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, the the quote that I got was from, I guess, the Athens Charity Drive Committee had gotten and they were magnetic ones and they were engraved and they were really nice.
Yeah, you actually saw one or have one, right, Tori? So that's good.
I can find wherever I put mine and take a picture of it, email to you guys if you want to see what it was, but it had like a magnetic bar on the back and it was a silver front.
That's awesome. Yeah, please
Sounds
do.
cool. Okay, Rodney, are you working on something for that?
I have some language. Motion to amend the previously approved motion to spend $200 on promotional T-shirts, to spend that $200 on name tags and magnets instead of T-shirts.
Okay, so just to be clear, what the name tags, you know how they usually have a pin on the back? So it's not two separate things, just to make sure. It's magnetic name tag. Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
I'd second that amendment to that motion.
Right. All in favor? Great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for accommodating that on the last minute.
Yeah. Well, that sounds good. So just let us know what you come up with, and we can go from there.
Okay. Thanks. That's all I got.
Right. Awesome. Let's go ahead and move into the policy committee. Short and sweet as usual. Let's see here. Awesome. Okay. Mary Songster, what you got?
Not much. It's been a little bit sort of circling around on the language we've been working on for planning. The only real change is that Lee and I worked, just really started what will hopefully be a short document to begin to talk about private trees and the tree policy. It's always a sticky area. So we just like really started and have more to do, which hopefully. And then after we compile these things, I hope to actually send them to Aaron to sort of vet, to be familiar with, to see if we're missing something, and then they'll come back. I hope to have really something to show you guys and come back for you guys to vet, and everyone, for all you guys to look at after Lee and Rodney and I have worked the document. But so not much has happened, but more will happen. That's it for
Cool.
me.
That's great. Yeah, I look forward to reading that. I think that'd be awesome. I guess you think after summer recess, maybe like August, maybe we'll have a really rough draft. Maybe.
Yes, that is my hope. Yeah.
Yeah, we've already got a rough draft. We've
Yeah.
sent it back and forth a couple times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's not a. Yeah.
I'm trying to make it a document that really, as Lee and I, we keep going back and forth, like we're telling planning a lot of stuff that we're giving them opinion on stuff they already know. We're just reminding them to begin to include this earlier in the planning process. Is sort of the ultimate goal is to have them start thinking about this process earlier, include more of us and of sustainability, and think larger canopy. So that's, and it's how to say that. It's harder to say than you think, but
Sure.
yes, my hope is to have something for y'all to review and look at in August for sure. Like you guys, my work's kind of seasonal, so with the days are long. If it's not raining, we are working, so it's been kind of busy. But I'll get there.
I totally understand that. Well, yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. We look forward to seeing what you got. I think August should be a good jump off point. It doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, it can be bullet items and
yeah.
So
That's good.
fine.
There's no way this will be perfect,
Yeah,
but I think
that's
it'll be a
fine.
good beginning.
And I think even what we submit to planning at the end of the year, it doesn't have to be some shiny document. Ideas, big concepts, that kind of thing. That's perfect. I think from what I've heard of you talking about, soil volume and just in terms of the ordinances I've reviewed in larger cities that have kind of gone through more revisions than Athens has, I think you're right on track with kind of what's on the forefront for what's necessary for keeping the ordinance, up to date and in line with current thinking. So
and my goal is not to necessarily solve the problem for them, but to talk about things that they're going to be way better at that than I am, just to point out that these things need to be looked at and to start, to make sure it's included in the conversation when they're working on these ordinances. That's something that we as a group feel like is a direction to go, because they're going to have some way better solutions than I could come up with as far as incorporating it. So that's the goal.
I wouldn't sell yourself short, but no, I think but you're right. We're advisory in nature, so we're not gonna write it out for them. We're just gonna say this is what's the current practices and thinking, and this is what we feel should be included in a revision to the tree ordinance, which it's been a minute since it was revised. So anything that you come up with is going to be fresh and new, and so that's our role. We're just we're advisors. So
I think it'll be good.
Definitely. Okay. Is there anything else you have on policy?
Not this round.
Okay.
That's it for me.
Well, great. In that case, then we'll move on to education. So yeah, Edith, looks like you got a couple of things here.
We do. Before we go into our short summer recess, we wanted to get some things, more details ironed out for the tree ID on the Greenway, which will be October 30th. So we're meeting with Randy Smith, who's the director, excuse me, allergy, who's director of the Sandy Creek Nature Center, on Wednesday, June 30th at 4:30. I know it's going to be hot. Just to look at the pavilion and try to decide, excuse me, where we're having registration and just a few other details. Anyone's invited, and this would be in lieu. So sorry. This would be in lieu of our meeting next week. I think if we announce it on the agenda and it's open to the public, we'd be still in compliance with the sunshine laws. So education committee won't be meeting next week. We'll just have a work group on the 30th. Winterville Tree Council is partnering with us on this, and their members have been invited also.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just want to send out a reminder to
I will.
the council.
I will. And Holly, you had mentioned a survey about the educational shorts. Did you want to talk about that now or just defer?
Oh, I think we talked about, remember who we decided we were gonna send that to. I think it was just our group, but just to ask if there were any particular topics that rose to the surface that folks thought we should try to seek speakers for those topics. And so we talked about doing that in survey form, or I guess they could be emailed to us as well.
I think it's a great idea. Yeah, however y'all want to figure out is the best way. But yeah, I think that's great. Great, and definitely, you know, as with most of our stuff, there's overlap. So y'all can lean on promotions as well. Figure out how that works out. But yeah, I think that's great. Anybody else have any input on that topic?
I may have missed before, Holly, but when you're talking about like receiving input for like educational topics, are they topics that you want from the community of interest, or like for us that like the Tree Council of interest? Like who's the target? Like who are we educating?
I kind of assumed that the shorts were for anyone who could listen in on these meetings. So it could be us or the community at large. And so as far as serving the community at large, I don't know if we have an email list that we could send that to, or if it's just that we as a group having some expertise in this area would like to come up with some topics, and then maybe after a period of time, a year, maybe we query the broader community and ask if there's some other shorts topics that they would like to see.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Sort of some options there.
Yeah. Rodney, I was wondering if you get questions frequently about certain topics from the public.
I get a ton of legal questions. So by far the inquiries I get are about hazard tree concerns and concerns about neighbors' trees that could affect them. So legal questions, you know, people don't really want to know much about defects or things like that. They just want someone to talk to see if, you know, if the tree is safe or not. But the legal stuff could be one of them.
Lee?
Find me more hours in the day and I will be glad to do it. Well, since we're not meeting in July, you give me till August, I can do something, sure. I just sat through 2 webinars that were trees in the law, so I can condense that down to like 5 or 10 minutes, easy.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Okay.
There is a document on the Foresters page titled Trees in the Law. It's a pretty good document. It's old, but it's still pretty relevant. So that's a good resource.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll do it in August.
Okay.
Right.
We look forward to that. That'd be awesome. Well, that's great. I guess, Edith, is there anything else that you have?
Not for
now. Okay. Well, in that case, it's 5:32. I've got 9% battery life on my iPad, so I think this is probably a good place to jump off. Does anybody else have any last-minute additions or comments, suggestions? Okay. Well, thanks everyone for another great meeting. And so we will be off in July for summer recess, but look forward to August meeting in person. So Rod and I will get you something beforehand to kind of, you know, spell out some of the details for that. But that will be at the planning building on Doherty Street in the auditorium and it's not required to be in person, but it's we'd love to see your face, and if not, see your face on the screen. So yeah, with that, everybody have a great night, and we will see you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.